Friday, Friday. There's not a song that sounds like this, but why not sing one about Friday? I just filled up my glass, and it's Friday here at the Savannah Performance Project Bungalow, Cabana. I don't know what we want to call it. It's a hovel. We'll call it the hovel. That sounds good. How's everybody doing today? It's so good to be here. The one person in Michigan that's watching us right now, shout out who you are. Put it in the comments. Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Oh, there's 2 people. Oh my gosh, we doubled our audience in like a mere second. I'm so excited. Thanks for joining us, everyone who's here. The 2 people that are watching. I'm so excited, enthused, everything that I can possibly be. And I am no longer anywhere near the closet under the stairs. This is the first show that we have exited that entire household. Harry Potter went off to school. He's no longer here. It's okay. He's enjoying his schooling. It's a cycle. He keeps going back. I think he's teaching there now. I'm not really sure. Anyway, I would love to talk to our guest today and not drone on about my surroundings and what happens. And he's waiting backstage now. He's enjoying a fine cocktail of coffee because it's too early for anything else. And I know that everyone else is waiting for me to talk to him, and so am I. I'm waiting to talk to him. So let's just go ahead and bring him on. Everybody, Travis Coles, where are you? You're there somewhere. There you are.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. And I'm going to pretend like we didn't just do that 2 minutes ago.
Right.
Because now we're live and nobody knows that we've talked before. This is totally impromptu. But yeah, so Travis, I have had the misfortune of never like having an actual face-to-face conversation with you, except for this past week when we had some exchanges. I won't talk about that because people are waiting to hear about that at some other time. Ryan McCurdy, get on the ball, man. Anyway, yeah. So let's talk about you because everybody's heard about me. Travis, you've been with not just Bay Street Theater, but Club One for 16 years, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. And what led you into that in the first place?
So, and sorry for the barking in the background.
That's okay. I got one here too. So,
I was going to Armstrong at the time, and I was actually working in Richmond Hill at a restaurant there that's not there anymore. But I was at Club One for my 21st birthday, and I was supposed to have like 15 friends join me. And in the end, as sometimes happens, everyone got picked off, and I ended up going there with one friend. And so we were there for the show, for the 12:30 show. And I went over to the bar to grab a drink, and there was a gentleman there that decided to buy me a drink for my birthday. And it turned out later on as conversation went that it was the owner of the club. And at the time, I was not really happy where I was at in my job and was just kind of doing core classes at Armstrong because I didn't know what career path I wanted to take. And he offered me a job bartending. So I was supposed to show up. This was Saturday night. I was supposed to show up on Monday to train. And the guy that was supposed to show up Sunday to train didn't show up. And so he called me and said, be here in an hour. And I was there in an hour, and I've been there ever since.
Wow. That's crazy. That's a one thing that we share in common, that bartending led us down a path. Mm-hmm. For me, it was getting married because my wife and I worked at the same restaurant that I bartended at, and I just plied her with drinks until finally she said yes and let's go out. So similar paths. Let's say that.
Right.
So you started out as a bartender there, but you went on to do much more.
Yeah, so I started out as a bartender and kind of worked up to a weekday manager. I actually brought karaoke to the club, which is now a 7-day-a-week thing. Originally, we were bringing in outside sources, and actually, we had Ryan McCurdy there for a while working with us, and Chris Stanley is that's actually how he started working at the club, was karaoke DJ. It seems to be a kind of a portal. But yeah, so we had some outside folks, and then we ended up getting our own system there. But yeah, so weekday manager, and then I left the club for about a year, and the owner asked me to come back as the general manager. And that was actually, I was in Australia, actually living in Sydney back in 2007, when to come back and be the GM. So that was a big jump.
Sydney, Australia. Wow, that's crazy. I wonder what the weather's like in Sydney right now. Let's look at our weather map right now and see what it's 68 degrees. And it is in fact raining in Sydney, Australia.
And what's the temperature here? Let's see.
I feel like
it's a little cooler here. It's
a little cooler.
According to the Weather Channel app, it's 46 here, but similar weather, rainy weather.
Yeah. And I think most of America is either covered in wetness or snowflakes. So I imagine Sydney is at least wet. It's like wet for the rest of the week. It looks like some thunderstorms. So similar language they use, and also similar temperature, I guess. Anyway. But we don't need to talk about that. Sydney is Sydney. But you do have family in Sydney right now.
I do. I've got a cousin I've got one cousin in Sydney and a couple just outside of Sydney in Campbelltown. And then I've got some relatives up in Brisbane and Hervey Bay area, some in Canberra. And I think that's it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's weird. Australia has been in my life this past week because for some reason, some company in Australia has told me that there's a package being sent to me in South Australia.
Okay. Well, I was born in Adelaide, in South Australia.
Oh, were you? Okay. Yeah. Did you send a package to me in Australia? Thinking, okay. There's like a guy with a similar email address, except he has dots in it.
Okay.
Same name, obviously, but so they keep sending me these messages that my package is coming. I was like, well, I don't know if he knows it's coming, but I do. I don't know how to get in touch with him.
They need to add the .au after the .com, and maybe they'll get to the right person.
There you go. Perfect. So is there a gmail.com.au?
I don't think so. I think Gmail is universal, but
yeah. I think so too.
So base website .com.au.
Circling back to your history at Club One, so you were in Australia or Sydney for a year, you said?
No, it was about 5 or 6 months.
5 or 6 months.
I went down there kind of at a time my cousin had a motorcycle accident and was having knee reconstruction surgery and a hip replacement. And he had a little cafe there in Burwood, which is a suburb of Sydney, West Sydney. And I was in kind of in between things, didn't really know, I was in another junction where I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was like, well, let me go to Australia and see if I want to stay there. And actually at the time, I had looked at, I think it was the University of Sydney for performing arts. And that was really interesting and intriguing, but I don't think I was ready to leave my immediate family and all my friends here to kind of jump across the other side of the world and do, 4 to 6 years of schooling.
Yeah.
You always wonder the what ifs, but I'm happy where I'm at right now.
That's good. Yeah. And speaking of where you're at right now, Bay Street Theater still going strong after all these years. It's been around for 13 years. Did I get that right?
We're 12. I think we will be going into the 13th, I believe. Although with having taken a year off with COVID in place, I don't know. Do we deduct that year or do we consider it? No. We are not deducting this past year by any means. Yeah. It's too much experience in this past year. For promo picture, so I guess that counts. We did do Bay Street Theater business, so I guess that counts as part of the year.
Oh, good. And the Rocky Horror you've been doing that for how many of those years?
12. Well, all of them.
All of them.
The first, when Savannah Actors Theater that McCurdy was over, when that ended, essentially I kind of asked for his blessing to take over Rocky Horror at our space. And that's I actually met Ryan McCurdy and Sasha Travis when they were handing out flyers and putting up posters and came to the club. It was probably 2 or 3 years before Bay Street Theater existed. And that's where I first met them. And I said, oh, this is amazing. Went and saw Rocky Horror at Savannah Actors Theater, which then, of course, became Cardinal Rep. And I absolutely loved it. And it really kind of reignited my passion for theater. I'd been in drama in grade school, but it kind of went away in high school because Richmond Hill at the time didn't really have a performance program, theatrical program. So that was inspiring, and then I just kind of kept following them. And when that ended, we kind of took up the mantle with Kimmy Sampieri. She was the executive producer. Teresa Michelle Walker was the director. These are all kind of historical, legendary names with theater in Savannah. And so we did Rocky Horror under the production company of Kim Sam Productions, which is Kimmy's production company at the time. I cannot believe I remembered that. But that was the first time we was on our stage. And then the next year, we kind of created Bay Street Theater with the first show of Vagina Monologues, which was directed by Trish Sugarek and was a fundraiser for the Race Crisis Center. And we kind of rolled into Rocky Horror. We did Hedwig, I think, in that first year or two as well. And it just kind of took off from there. And in those first couple of years, we were joined by Jim He when we did Rent, another legendary name.
Yes.
Vincent joined us for, I can't remember what his first show was with us. Oh no, Cabaret. It was absolutely Cabaret. And that was a a stressful experience because we didn't really have lighting for Cabaret. We ended up getting it loaned to us for free from Stagefront a day before we opened.
Oh, wow.
So an ambitious student from SCAD named Sean McGuire came in, and he and I managed not to kill each other in the overnight that we spent at the club hanging these lights, trying to get it to work. But in the end, it turned out beautifully. Professor Kelly McClung came in and did the Mylar backdrop. If you've ever looked through my pictures on Facebook, you'll see some of these really dramatic pictures with the harsh red light on that Mylar backdrop with the actors in the foreground. It was intense, but one of the most beautiful experiences I think I've ever had.
Oh, wow. So if anybody here is watching from the Savannah Performance virtual hangout space, I'm going to get Travis to post some of those pictures there so you can see it. I think, I love that kind of history. And just there are things that I have learned now that I did not know before. Yeah. For instance, I have talked to Ryan McCurdy no less than probably 5 times on this show. And I did not know that he was part of the Savannah Actors Theater. So that's crazy. And a big part by what you're saying. So
absolutely. I think he was with some friends. I think he was basically running it. Yeah.
We kind of get off track whenever we're talking, unfortunately.
I can't imagine why.
I can't imagine why either. Wow, that's great. And so give me your best Rocky Horror story. What was the Rocky Horror moment during all of its run?
Oh, I don't know. It's a well-known fact that every year the Rocky Horror crud comes through the cast. So every year for about a week and a half, you have probably half the cast there because the other half are out with some kind of mystery illness. Obviously this year was a little bit different.
Yeah.
As far, I don't know. I mean, for other shows, I have those horror stories. For Rocky, I don't know if I have one for Rocky. It's because it's a show that you can get away with so much with. So it's not one of those moments where something happens and you're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? It's like, oh, that was funny. Let's just keep rolling with it.
Yeah. What about the first year you did it? Was that all flawless?
It was a learning experience. The limitations that we had really for the first couple of years were tech related. We didn't really have the mics that we needed. We didn't really have the lighting that we needed. It's a space that it's a small enough space that you should be able to project, but in a show like Rocky, where you have a lot of folks that are watching and reveling, and the bar is open, it gets kind of noisy. So there's a lot of kind of overcoming the crowd with Rocky Horror, and we with these shows with Rocky Horror, and with any show where there is any kind of scantily clad actors, Chicago, some Cabaret, some of these other shows that we've done, we always have good floor staff that if somebody is getting out of hand, they can be escorted out. So it's kind of a non-traditional theater space in that regard, because it is so intimate. People are in the aisles, people are within touching distance of the audience. So it's something that we take into account anytime we do a show in that space.
So I'd say probably the worst things that ever happen are not on stage; it's off stage.
Yeah. And it's whenever someone has to be told to leave, the rest of the audience is usually pretty helpful to tell them to leave.
Oh, good. It's good to have a helpful audience.
Yeah.
Just an entire audience of bouncers. That's what I imagine.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you've done Hedwig. We talked about Chicago right before, and you were cast in Chicago as
Billy Flynn.
That's right.
I think
Nice.
it's probably one of the most fun roles I've ever had. That Chicago had a lot of interesting stories.
Let's go there.
So Chicago was the only show that we've done a 4-weekend run in. It was our most attended show in history of Bay Street Theater. The name itself kind of sells the show, but it was also it became wildly popular after that first weekend, when our first kind of not reviews, but social media comments started coming out, and it kind of snowballed. And truly, if it weren't for the limitations of rolling into the Rocky Horror rehearsal process, I think we probably could have gone another weekend. But with the shows at Bay Street Theater, I tend to do the set construction because it's in my space. It's easy enough. I've got kind of a workshop on the next floor up, which is fun carrying it around that stairwell because it's not a straight. Everything has to be less than 8 feet and then assembled on stage. So I was building the set for that week and learning all of my lines and helping with sound and lighting. And of course, so we're spending late nights there till probably 4:30 or 5 in the morning during tech, doing runs to Fancy Parker's to pick up food. And well, I got food poisoning or a stomach bug, and I'm not saying it was Fancy Parker's. I'm not saying it wasn't Fancy Parker's, but so on final dress and opening night, in between moments, I was throwing up. And
I have heard about this.
Yeah, drinking Pedialyte, eating saltine crackers, and looking like death in general, and literally learning my lines up to the last minute. And Brandon Kaufman can tell you, I got through the show, and at the climax of the courthouse scene towards the end, I completely blanked. Like I said one part of the line, and then it just flew out of my brain. And what felt like an hour and a half was probably about 3 or 4 seconds. But Brandon played like 3 or 4 notes, and whatever those 3 or 4 notes were, I think musically related to whatever word I was supposed to be saying. And it just, light bulb came on, and I was able to go on with the show.
Oh gosh, thank you, Brandon.
That was probably one of the most stressful times in my Bay Street Theater career. I mean, there have been plenty, but that was one of the most stressful, just because I was physically torn down and then exhausted, and somehow we managed to get it on stage. It was Jeff DeVincent was the director. It was his idea to flip the stage so the audience turned around and basically faced the back wall, and it gave us an opportunity to really get creative with the space, reverse lighting, play with the acoustics, and like we were talking about before we came on, we had Chicago in the center as a lit marquee sign that Mark Rand actually built for us. And
thank you, Mark Rand.
Yeah, we had Roxy on one side and Velma on the other, and we tried to stay true to the what am I thinking? Choreographer, the Fosse choreography for the show, and we had Courtney Flood, who's now down in Florida, but she's Savannah Theater alum as well.
Oh yeah, I've worked with Courtney. Yeah,
it's great. And now, side note, she's a mortgage broker, and I include her in my list of preferred lenders whenever anyone asks. But yeah, so we were on stage and during one of the performances, and Fosse involves a lot of throwing the arm up, and somebody threw their arm up into the glass light bulbs behind. So we had to. Oh gosh! We had to pause the show. And
was that JoJo Ward by any chance?
I don't remember if it was JoJo. It could be JoJo, or Lee was there too. But somebody did, and Val Lavelle was the one that said, "Wait, we're gonna stop. We're gonna clean this up, and we'll go on." And we quickly grabbed I was backstage, so I had no idea what was going on. But we quickly grabbed a broom and a dustpan and got the glass off the Marley and went on with the show.
That's fun, man. I imagine the audience is just getting into that too.
Yeah.
They love those moments. The fourth wall moments are the greatest, I think.
Well, and it was I think it was the opening numbers, so it was very early in the show.
We'll be here a while. It's okay. It's okay though. Enjoy your drinks. Yeah. I came on a Sunday, so I did not get the full experience. I think it was
Well, then, and the nice thing about having the Sunday shows is it gives people, well, one, it gives an all ages show, but it also gives an opportunity for people to not have to deal with some of the rowdiness that goes along. And we, our bartenders know it's usually 8 o'clock at night. So, don't overserve anybody. Don't, a cocktail or two is nice. They do it on Broadway, they're double tumbler cups.
Yeah.
And they give you a discount if you go back for another double.
This is mine right here. Savannah Theater, Historic Savannah Theater.
Every show I go to, I buy one of those just as a souvenir. I've got a collection that we take camping with us every year. But yeah, so I do like the Sunday shows because they tend to bring like high school students, folks that don't normally get a chance to come in and see the shows. So that's an important part of the Bay Street Theater lineup.
Yeah. You guys mostly do like at most maybe 2 shows a year?
Well, it's funny you should ask because there was one year. Give me 1 second. I might have a magnet on my fridge. Give me 1 second.
Okay. All right. While he's going to fetch his magnet, I just want to again give a shout out to the Historic Savannah Theater. Nothing going on there right now, but I'm sure that will happen soon. There you go. Right. That's a shout out.
So I don't have the magnet, but there was one year. And I don't remember what year it was, but I'm guessing probably around 2012, 2013. Mm-hmm. We did 8 shows. And we were very, very ambitious. We thought, well, some of these shows are small. Like it was, I think, an adult evening of Shel Silverstein, Vagina Monologues, because that was something that we were doing every year for a while there. But I think we did 3 musicals that year.
Oh, wow.
3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think we did 4 musicals because we did Hedwig, we did Rocky. I think
Jen He says it was 2012 to 2013.
Thank you, Jen He. But I think, that was the year that we did a beginning of summer musical, an end of summer musical, Rocky Horror, Hedwig in November, and then we did I think the 8 Reindeer Monologues was that year.
So she corrected herself. Okay. 13, 14.
Ginny, if you have the magnet, please post a picture of it. We got magnets that year, and we did a whole presentation at the beginning of the year saying, look at what we're doing. And then the end of the year was like, oh, God, what have we done? But yeah, that was – oh, JoJo's chiming in too.
Yeah.
Rocky.
Brent, Hedwig, Rocky.
Yeah,
okay.
It was a lot, and we said never again.
Yeah.
But it was an intense but really, really rewarding year. But yeah, so when we were consistent outside of that 1 year of 8 shows, we tended to do about 4 shows a year. The last few years, we've done typically 2 or 3. We do, like stage reading of Vagina Monologues, and then like a end of summer musical, and then Rocky Horror. And if we can fit it, we try to do a Christmas show. One of my favorites that I personally directed was the 8 Reindeer Monologues, though, because I had Chris Stanley, Cecilia Rango,
yes,
Aaron Muller, George Moser, Eric Hauk, who's now in New York. I'm trying to think who else was in the show. Oh, Tim Reynolds, and there's 2 more, and I can't think. I'm so sorry. I should not have done that live.
No. It all blurs together after a while, I think.
But I was pleased because it was such a simple set, and it's literally just 8 monologues of the reindeer talking about Santa and how evil he is and twisted. But I was very sacrilegious and did it. The set was basically the manger scene, and they were arranged kind of around the manger that was Rudolph.
Oh, I see. So they were basically arranged like the members of the manger scene, but they were arranged. I get it. Yeah, that's fun. I wish I'd seen that. Bring it back when we can all get on stage again.
I think that would be a good one to bring back because it's not a long show. It's fun. It's cheap to produce, and it's good for that time of year to kind of have some dark humor at Christmas time.
Yes, everyone needs darkness at Christmas time. I always say that.
We did another Christmas show at that time, David Sedaris, Seasons Greetings and Santa Land Diaries, and that was another fun show. It was super produced, and it's just monologues.
That's awesome. So we talked about Bay Street. We've talked about Club One. Let's talk about Collective Face.
Yes. So we are currently in rehearsals for Hedda Gabler, the Ibsen play. We're going to be doing a video recording of it and posting it for streaming online. We don't have a set date for recording yet. We're supposed to be setting that Sunday. But it's nice to be back in some kind of production again. We're rehearsing at Savannah State, spacing out, which, I mean, that's a large space, so it's easy to space out. We've done some rehearsals on our stage at the club, just whenever Savannah State wasn't available. But it is really, really, really nice to be involved in a production again after over a year off, especially missing out on Rocky Horror this year, which is it gives you your annual fix if you haven't done anything else. But yeah, that's got Casey Bissett in it, as well as I won't go through all the actors because I'm sure I'll leave one out.
We talked to Casey, or I talked to Casey. I don't know who this we is. There's nobody else here. I talked to Casey back, right before the New Year's, or was it right after the New Year's? I don't know. Like I said before, it all blurs together now.
She's fantastic.
She is, yes. She really is.
She's playing the title role. She is my wife, Hedda Gabler. But every show I've been in with her has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, she is funny, and also like she could just take on a character like nobody's business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a story there too from when we did Big Love, but I'm not sure it's appropriate for younger audiences.
Yeah, I don't know who's watching. 1:00. It's like there's no telling. My daughter may be upstairs watching, so maybe when we go offline, you can tell me that story. That'd be great.
Basically, an actor or a prop from Rocky Horror made its way into that show. The audience never saw, but yeah, we were having fun.
Okay. Great. Okay, so when does Hedda Gabler go up?
So once we've got it recorded, we'll start kind of really running the promotional material, but we're aiming for end of March, probably sometime in April. Okay,
cool. So I'll finish watching WandaVision. I'll be ready.
Yeah.
I'll be ready for Hedda Gabler at that time. Wait. Why are you saying no, Jinhee? I don't understand. She says no. I don't know why. Anyway, she'll tell me in a minute, I'm sure. No, I did. Okay, maybe it's because she thought I was going to give away an ending of a WandaVision episode. I'm not going to do that. I haven't watched today's yet. We watch it this evening as a family.
Let me know about the story that I've.
Oh, okay. Don't tell the story. Got it. Wow, Travis, this has been a joy to talk to you today. I really appreciate you coming on and jumping on and finally us having a conversation. At some point, we'll have to get together and have I don't know if this is formal. It's not really formal, but at some point we'll be able to do it. Oh, I'm getting a FaceTime from my wife, but I'm going to, I'll do that. I'll talk to her later. It's like showing up on my screen right now.
Oh, man.
I just declined her.
Oh,
I'm going to hear about that. Anyway, Travis, it's been a joy. Thank you for joining us today. Again, we'll talk soon. And
absolutely.
Before we go, do you know about my thing that I do at the end of every show?
I don't think I do.
Okay. Anybody want to shout it out in the audience? Does anybody? No? Okay, forget it. So what I do is it's called Sitcom Freeze. I come up with a scenario from a sitcom from the past because I grew up on sitcoms. It's true. So in this installment, it is the first time Archie Bunker meets George Jefferson. And Meathead is there, and Archie's wife is there, and it's a pivotal time in the history of American television when we actually started talking about race in an actual meaningful way. Mm-hmm. And Archie is basically a closet racist, as everyone knew. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to be Archie. I'm going to be Edith.
Okay.
And possibly you could be Meathead. I don't know. Yeah, pick your role. But this is when they meet, and you're having your reaction to their interchange. I'm going to count it down: 3, 2, 1, and then you have your moment. So 3, 2, 1. Sitcom freeze.